Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Next Level Broadcasting Show. I am Eric Huffman, joined again this week by Jared Stamen, Charles Strail doing production again for us this week, and a special guest. We'll get into that here in just a minute. We got a fun show for you today. We'll talk about the first week of football playoffs, and we'll get into the NFL trade deadline while we also dabble into the first week of college basketball. An important question getting into the season, trying to tie that in with college football a little bit. And then we'll end the show by getting into the next round of playoff football games. But first, again, I mentioned we have a very special guest in here, member of the state champion Charlevoix Raiders, and not only a member of the team, but the state champion himself, Hunter Eaton. Please welcome Hunter to the show, guys. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited.
That's great. We've got a few questions here for you, but again, nice of you to travel down 66 and meet us here at the Next Level Studio. And man, what a great performance that the team put on last week down there at MIS.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was proud of those boys.
Yep, that's great. Now, Jared, I think you may have a question for him.
Yeah, so Hunter, cross country is one of those sports where it's not just, track, where it's a solo sport. It's a team sport. So even though, your individual effort, could make or break a team, ultimately it is how the group of guys runs together.
Yeah.
So on your team, who is that voice? You might be the biggest talent on the squad. Is that your voice calming it down, the coach, or is there another guy who kind of deserves a shout out for your success?
Probably my coach. I mean, everybody on the team, we're all working hard, and I guess the coaches keep us in line, and so kind of a team effort, I'd say.
I guess I'll try to tie into that a little bit. Are you guys does coach let you be like extensions of him, because obviously he can't be by your side the whole time. So you guys like help coach each other by like being like assistant coaches as well, trying to help each other along.
On runs, obviously they're not there all the time, so we were just kind of telling each other or communicating with each other how our runs are going. So and we're like, if one guy's slouching over a little bit in practice, we're like, stand up a little bit. So
Absolutely. You got to motivate them as well, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Charles, I believe you have a question to add in as well.
Yeah, so my question for you, Hunter, is when you're going through a race, right, and you know that your team is in contention for winning the state championship, how does it motivate you to know that the points that you generate ultimately goes into the accumulate score of what your school is going to get? Does it give you a little extra juice at the end? We saw in your championship run, we've got some highlights that we've put together. The last 200 meters, you really extend your lead. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see the scoreboard and see where your other teammates are at, saying to yourself, hey, if I can lock up first place, I know everybody else is going to do their thing and everybody just does their job? Talk to me about that process.
Yeah, so I put a lot of trust in my team, and I know if I'm racing good, they're racing good. So I never really saw like where we were in the team standings, because they have them mats out the 1 mile, 2 mile, and 3 mile. But I just knew that I was gaining a lead on those two behind me, and I was like, I just gotta keep going with it. If you keep going with it, it should be 1 point for our score, and then hopefully the rest of the team can run up, and
Sure.
race good.
So we've got some highlights here, and we would love to have you help narrate some of these highlights here while we're watching them and while the viewers are watching them. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look and show you what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the highlights of the championship run for Division III, featuring Hunter Eaton. So let's take a look at these. So the mic is yours, Hunter.
All right.
You got just about 2 minutes, and you can kind of take us through. So here's the 1,000 meter mark.
So that was a 1K.
And here's 2K.
Kind of keeping it chill right there. And then 2K is kind of where I was like, all right, I need to start kicking in a little bit. Came around the 2 mile, a little hot, about where I want to be. And then came down this hill. This is kind of where I planned on, you're coming to the last K here, and I was like, and as you can see, I'm in the last K there, kind of breaking away.
And this, you've got deemed this about a 2-meter lead here.
Yeah.
And when you the last 2 minutes of this race, so you finish at 15:31, spoiler, and right here on the screen you're at 13:22. So the last 2 minutes of this run, it's you and 3 people. At this point in time, with a 2-meter lead, do you look over your shoulder? What's your process?
So they all say never look over your shoulder during a race, but this was I was doing it all the time in this race. You could see me I think a few 30 more seconds I look behind me, see how big of a lead, and especially in that last 200 there, I was looking behind me, just making sure I could maintain it, and because if I push a second or 2 faster, it's still going to be 1 point to the team score. So I mean, I was like, it'd be nice to throw down a little bit of a faster of a time, but I mean, it was still a win is a win. You know what they say?
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me real quick, because I know we're watching the highlights of you, but I also, in a meeting this morning, heard a couple of things too. But you had somebody that normally doesn't finish high, really finish high, and really put you guys over the top to be able to finish in first. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, tell the group who he is, and tell me the mindset and how he got motivated to finish like he did.
I'm assuming you're talking about Maxwell Drent.
Yes.
That's my friend right there. He's an awesome young man, great friend, and he comes to practice every day with a great mindset. And throughout the season, it was cool to see him. He started out the season a little slow, and he kind of got in his head a little bit. And I was like, Maxwell, you've been through a lot over the summer, because he was one of them in the golf accident, and he had a little bit of a rough summer, and I told him, just get into your groove and just keep training hard, and he did that throughout the season, and he proved himself at the biggest race of the year that we did.
Yes, I believe the PR was better than maybe 20 seconds or more. I believe he PR'd it, which
20.
is just amazing. Where you normally finish in the 50s, and then or way less than that, or maybe it was I don't remember exactly what the number was. Mm-hmm. But obviously, shaving 20 to 30 seconds off your time is astronomical, and no better time than in the state finals.
Yes, that's what we were talking about. I was talking about to his dad, and I was like, the fact that he PR'd by 20 seconds on this course is a challenging course, but there's always that, atmosphere of racing fast on it. Yep. And he took advantage of that, that's for sure. And he was moving for him.
So we've got it on screen here. Talk us through the last 20, 30 meters here. We've got it paused. You've got roughly 7 seconds left to go until you cross the finish line here. You've got about a 10-meter lead over the people behind you coming in.
Yeah, so I never really celebrate after it.
Well,
and I was kind of like, do I celebrate, or do I just kind of be nonchalant about it and just cross the line? But I was like, no, it's a big day, so might as well just throw my arms up and smile a little bit, because it's a big moment, and I think I deserve it. So yeah, and I was like, I want to get a good picture too. That was in the back of my mind. Yeah, you gotta have the Instagram picture, right? Exactly.
I got a couple other small things for you. Number one, what is up next for Hunter Eaton? Obviously, you still got a lot of school year left to go, but what's up for the end of this year, going into the summer and into next year even?
Well, so I'm doing 2 postseason races.
Okay.
And that one, I have one Saturday, and then one the Saturday after that. So the next 2 Saturdays I'll be racing. This Saturday. This is Mitka. It's kind of like a Michigan, or it's a statewide thing. And basically what they do is they have these teams, these sponsors draft elite teams, and then they draft throughout the runners. And I got drafted by the Up North Elite team.
Nice.
They're
awesome.
a club for indoor track season, which I'll be going into after I get my break from cross country. So I'm excited for indoor track. That'll be fun. And then hopefully make it to the state meet for that indoor track and throw down some good times in indoor. And then my goal ultimately for indoor is try to make a national meet because those always look fun. And then track season, I'm looking for more state titles.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I always told my kids when I was coaching, like, never be satisfied. I mean, there's
Exactly.
always more to go for.
Yeah, that's what my dad's telling me. Is like, don't be satisfied with anything. Just keep working hard.
Yes, sir. And well, that kind of ties into my last thing to add here. Again, in that meeting I was at this morning, I also heard, obviously cross country's done for the year, but I also heard a group of guys got together and did something after you guys have already finished your season. And what I heard is that they all got together and went for a run.
Oh yeah, I was there. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
As you
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, we've been doing that every day this week. We actually so it's me, Ryder, and Quinn and Maxwell, and then Jacob Molidor and Ari's been coming, and then we actually got Noah Umulus. He's my really good friend. He's a soccer player. We got him running with us, and he ran yesterday with us. And yesterday was a little bit of a tune-up, a little workout. Yep. And then we had him run with us today, and that was just kind of a easier run. So, even though he's a soccer player, I think he was enjoying it a little bit.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was good to see. And we're trying to get him on the team next year. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Hunter, for coming down and joining us today. I appreciate that a lot. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we will go over last week's first week of football playoffs after we take a short break. And again, thank you so much to Hunter Eaton for coming down here. State champion runner from the Charlevoix Raiders, and not just the team, but also individual state champion. So again, congrats to you. And we'll
Thank
be
you,
back
guys.
with high school football right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Orion, but you might know me for my business, Professional Seamless Gutters, where we specialize in, you guessed it, everything gutters. New installations, replacements, cleaning, leaf guards, rain chains, and much more. But unlike other service providers, when you call Professional Seamless Gutters, you get me, Orion, not some bum intern or call center recording. So when you're contemplating any services regarding your gutters on your home or pole barn, think Professional Seamless Gutters.
Hi, it's Kevin Klein from TVC Airport. We're proud to help keep you connected to high school sports in Northern Michigan, so you can stay in the game all season long with TVC, your Northern Michigan connection.
Welcome back again to the Next Level Broadcasting Show. Eric Huffman, Jared Stamen, Charles Strail in studio. Again, thanks to Hunter Eaton for joining us down here. Right now, we'd like to get into the first week of Michigan football playoffs. And right now, we'll talk about Charlevoix and McBain. Man, what an intriguing game. I couldn't check in on that game enough. You know, you and I did one together. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But, man, this game was exciting to check in on, and a one-point game at that. McBain pulling out an exciting 28-27 win.
Yeah, when we were up at our game this weekend, we had everyone in the press box asking us what was going on. It was definitely the game of the area, and, well, it lived up to the hype, Eric. It was a nail-biter all the way down to the end as we get the highlights loaded up. You'll see it pretty much goes back and forth throughout the whole game, but there's a lot of frustration on the Charlevoix side, even though it was a close game.
And let's send it over for Shane
Just
Smith.
to the left.
Calls
Looks
of
to the
game.
pass for number 5 for the Raiders, Carter Greenacre. Touchdown. And Yanchulus's extra point is good.
Yeah, it'll be a handoff to Kurt, but this time the Raiders do an excellent job of backing him up. They run up the center. The fourth down conversion pays off as Campbell works through the Raider line. No problem. Gets the 2-yard rushing touchdown.
Nice.
And he's going to take it right through a hole in the line. Gets past the 35. Still on his feet. And left to catch him. He's going out wide. Finally brought down inside the 10. Third and goal from the 7. Colin Jess flushed out of the pocket. Makes the connection. There is a touchdown for the Raiders. And it'll be a
Easily.
touchdown. McBain. Nice job there
Number
by
8.
Bruning. It'll be a fake handoff instead to Ian Moran. He's still on his feet. Plows his way through the line and gets the touchdown. It'll be another wrap-up job behind the line of scrimmage. Grayson Warchall. Guys to block him.
He's juking.
Finds a
He's
hole.
going through.
Gets to the
we're going to your
40,
game,
the
Destroyer.
45, to midfield, still on his feet, inside the 45, and that's where he'll finally be brought down. They have the ball.
On the inside of the 5.
And Brunig going to run this one up. Oh, now it is
Oh, they
called.
called him a touchdown?
I guess so. 3 receivers. Jess rolling out. Got another man closing in. Makes the connection. Waiting for a signal.
Touchdown!
Oh my gosh, it is. Now they're going for 2.
We are going for 2.
The season on the line here for Charlevoix. Jess takes the snap. Looking, finds trouble, lets it go, and it's intercepted. McBain will come away with the season.
So you see the ending of the game there, you know, Charlevoix losing by 1, but man, the lead up to that, not quite in all those highlights, was the intriguing part of that, as initially there was a setup to go for the extra point to tie it.
Yeah, Eric, they lined up. You know, they have that trusty kicker. You thought they're going to, bang this in, go into overtime, tied at 28-28, and they called a timeout. And according to Shane Smith, who was, there, he talked to the AD after the game, and the coach said that the boys wanted to go for 2 points. They felt confident in it, and Coach Jess decided that was the way he was going to go. And we see the end result, and it was a frustrating game. I believe Colin Jess himself had 3 picks, not his best game, but even with some miscues, they still had a really good chance to win that game. It just kind of seems like Charlevoix football can't get over that playoff hump that they've been waiting for.
Yeah, it was 4 total turnovers for Charlevoix in that game, and one of those came at the 5-yard line. And it's just not a way where you're going to get yourself in good positions that are going to allow you to play good winning football when you're constantly trying to dig out of a hole with a shovel. No matter how big your shovel is, it's still a challenging task to be able to do that when you're putting yourself in bad positions on the football field, whether it's field position or just playing from behind. And for the most part in the game, Charlevoix was playing from a positive game flow, and then once McBain scored on the touchdown, making it 28-21, Charlevoix had about 2 minutes left, and they executed a 2-minute offensive drive nicely, get down to the 4-yard line, nice boot out for Colin Jess, and then got a nice completion for the touchdown, decided to go for 2, and in that situation, you got to think it's high school football. You have an opportunity to take the lead. There were 19 seconds left in the game. And at that point in time, all bets are off the table in my book. Eric, I know you got some thoughts on this as well. But from my point of view, with 19 seconds left in high school football, all bets are off the table because if you get that 2-point conversion, now the other team has a huge mental hurdle to clear as well. Not only being down 1 point, but they were up by 7, and then you come back under 2 minutes to go, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. Now the other team's fighting that mental battle as well. So I understand the disadvantages and the advantages of going for 2 in that situation. I think it just comes down to execution. And if you saw on the last play of this game, the McBain defensive line gets a really good push. I'll cue this up. They get a really good push coming up right through into Colin Jess's face, and they ran that same flood concept. If you look on the back side of this route, they do have one receiver in man coverage on the back side of the formation right near the bottom of the goalpost, and I think that's where they could have gone. But Charlevoix in a position where they didn't have any timeouts. They just ran a similar play to score the touchdown on, and just a better job of executing end-of-game scenario by McBain on that 2-point play. So congrats to the Ramblers. They'll be going on to take on Menominee, the Maroons of Menominee. Some would say the number 1 overall seed in Division 7, them or Monroe St. Mary. It's going to be a back-and-forth battle, as many would predict it, and many pundits predict a Menominee versus Monroe St. Mary in a championship game. But good luck to McBain.
You could call that the World Atlas game with the travel time on that one.
Yeah, you could. You certainly could. And, Charlevoix falls short 28-27. With that being the case, 4 turnovers, and you still only lost by 1 point.
Yeah, I'll give a quick point there. You just got through the emotions of getting to within 1 point, and when I get to within 1 point, I pull out my trusty coach's card for when we're down 1 point in that situation, and it says, "Let's get to overtime."
Okay.
And then go from there. We're riding high on emotions right now. Let's not make impulse decisions. Let's, what I consider to be do the right thing, get to overtime, take a deep breath, and then let's go out and try to find a way to win this thing.
Yeah, especially at home, I feel like I would back you completely on that decision.
Well, that'll do it for Charlevoix and McBain. We're going to move on to where Jared and I were last week. Right here down the road up at Boswell Stadium, East Jordan Red Devils took on the Frankfort Panthers. And, Jared, I came into this game when we talked about it on the Next Level show last week, last Thursday, kind of thought this was going to be more of an evenly matched game with what it sounded like Frankfort could have played a better game the first time that they met up. But with the 34-6 score, as we're going through the highlights, it really seemed like a lopsided affair as East Jordan really put it all together.
Yeah, I think some of the same mistakes that hurt Frankfort hurt them again. Instead of the amount of penalties this game that they had week 8, 20+, this game they just had really timely penalties hurt them. You're actually... First, the East Jordan gets a turnover on their first drive because a punt, kind of a turnover. The punt goes far over Webb's head, and it puts Frankfort in beautiful scoring position on the other team's 15-yard line. Yep. They get a touchdown on the second play, but it gets called back from a holding play, and they never recover from there. That was really the story of the game. They had timely holding calls, timely pass interference calls, It's just every time there's a big play that was helping them, it would get called back. And you just can't win football when you're beating yourself, when your defense or offense makes big plays, Eric.
Well, there's a couple of highlights there where you've got a nice view almost down field level a little bit more. You can actually see the linemen and either other backs and receiver. That one play right there where they're running to find their man and setting up that hole. He's basically just waltzing in for the score there. And, what a great job. I always talk about their offensive line and the way that team blocks. Yeah. And what a great example.
This play right here, Eric, you're talking about this one. Yeah, that's the second touchdown of the game for Beal.
Yes. And, one of the first play of offense, first play of the game for any team, minus the kickoff, Wyatt Dion, one of the star left tackles and edge rushers for East Jordan, goes down with an undisclosed injury in his crutches on the sideline for the whole game. And it was just from that start, the first quarter, the momentum was dead. He's been their hottest player on defense, and it was a huge blow. And ever since that second quarter, once kind of Webb started getting going, he really had himself a game. We haven't really talked much about William Webb yet, and he was really the star. There was a lot of great plays by East Jordan.
Well,
he was
right
going
here,
crazy.
We'll get in the Webb here, but I want to bring up another player that we've really talked about the last couple of weeks on both sides of the ball, being Trace Weinkoop.
Yep. Right there. Yeah, Webb misses 2 plays prior to Brady Wilson, doesn't make that mistake again, and that was 1 of 4 total touchdowns for Will Webb. His only passing touchdown, 3 other ones came on the ground. He also had a blocked extra point as well as a pick, Eric. So William Webb having his best game in the playoffs when his team really needed it most, and Maggie Schaefer there on the extra point. She had a pretty solid game too, Eric. I believe she was 2 for 3 from the stripe kicking as well.
Yeah, I know she missed her first one. It was short, and then they kind of went for 2 a couple times. And then I think I said at halftime she was out there putting the foot to it, making sure that the next 2 she put in the second half went through with ease.
Yeah, it was just overall a dominating game from East Jordan, exactly what you'd like to see in the playoffs. And, well, they'll have to see if they can continue this defensive success, because I think their defense also forced 4 to 5 turnovers. And, well, that's going to help you win pretty much any game. And those Glen Lake Lakers, they might be a little nervous facing a real hot East Jordan team that like to get some revenge, because that week, I think it was a week 4 game, Charles Strail and I were there, and they blew a little bit of a fourth quarter lead in Glen Lake. I don't know. This time, Eric, it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I'll be curious to get down there as I'll be going down with you to watch East Jordan and Glen Lake tomorrow. Charles, I know we got 2 more games. Which one do you have queued up for our next on the list here?
Right here, so we're going to send it down to Tom Clementson. He was down in Mayo for Gaylord St. Mary, and this one was an absolute barn burner, so just take a listen to this.
Some room. He gets around the right side. He gets past the secondary, and it's a foot race, and there he goes. Gage Spitzer for Mayo puts the Thunderbolts on the board, and it's an option play. Chummy's going to keep that one, and he's into the end zone for his first touchdown tonight. Greenier is going to take this one right side. He's got room, makes a man miss, and there he goes. He's got nobody in front of him. The ball up in his shoulder as he crosses the goal line. Logan Greenier, his 4th touchdown tonight. It's going to be a quick pass out to the right side. He makes a man miss, and there he goes. Might have a step on O'Connell. He sure does. He's gone in the end zone. Greenier this time is going to have it, and he's going to go into the end zone for another St. Mary touchdown. It's going to be a double reverse there, and he's going to come around the right side and all the way into the end zone, and there's O'Connell dropping back wide open in the end zone. Touchdown, Charlie Cameron, the mini fridge. He's going to go up, elevate that, ball's in the air, dropped it in the basket. That's exactly what Mayo needed. O'Connell with the keeper as he takes that right side. He's got room, he's got a blocker. Dureski with a nice block, and another one midfield. Here goes Nathan O'Connell all the way, running it into the end zone. Check for flags. This is a 90-yard touchdown rush by the sophomore quarterback. There's going to be Greenier as he takes off the right side, breaks a tackle, and he finds his way to the end zone. Number 7. And there's Greenier again, speaking of black and blue. Drops the ball, but it's picked up and taken into the end zone. What a play by Calvin Skoronski. Oh, my goodness.
So, not very close, as you get the St. Mary Snowbirds basically doubling up on Mayo. I know one thing I'd like to say. If Greenier's got the ball and I'm in front of him, I'm probably going to make a business decision and probably either fall down or sidestep or something like that, because once that young man gets going, you might as well just get out of the way.
Yeah, when we were checking in on this game, we were asking if they were going to get to 100 points, and you can even just hear, Tom Clemenson on the call just starting to laugh as it just got ridiculous. I mean, 84 points. I don't know if I've ever seen that many points in football. Mind you, it is, 8-man football, but nonetheless, 84 points is a very impressive, but especially doing it in the playoffs on the road.
Yeah, I mean, you want to look at a way that you can break a slump. St. Mary only scored 6 points against the Inland Lakes, 12 or 13 points against Inland Lakes the previous week in a really hard-fought game against the Bulldogs that they needed if they wanted to win the Ski Valley Conference Championship, and they just come out here and just start dropping haymakers from the jump. I believe that game was 22 or to 24 to 0 before Mayo scored their first points of the game, and St. Mary, the ground attack was fearsome. I mean, all those highlights were St. Mary rushing touchdowns, and I think the one that really capped it all off was the fumble and then pick up by Skoronski. Skoronski goes and advances, it scores, scoops and scores. And that's when you know that it's your night. When something like that happens, you just say, hey, we'll take that. We'll take it into the second round, a regional game now at Onekama coming up tomorrow night for the Snowbirds. And that was a big program win. First time the Snowbirds have won a playoff game in 3 years. So something for this young group of nucleus of players to continue to build around as the Snowbirds look to advance even further into the playoffs.
Well, last on the docket from last week's games, you had Traverse City St. Francis hosting the Boyne City Ramblers down at Thurlby Field, and Charles and the TC crew were down there. And Charles, you want to go over this game for us?
Sure, I'd love to. I mean, I was down at this one. So was Jared, so he'll be able to speak on this one as well. And we thought that this could be similar to the first time they played, in which St. Francis won 20-13. This is Braxton Lisinski on the first play from scrimmage, taking this one to the house for a 60-yard touchdown. That put the Gladiators up 7-0 after a made PAT by Sam Wildfong. And so this is the next touchdown by Cooper Sellers. This is Boyne City. This is Owen Hewitt. This play is not designed to be a throwback. This is 4th and 4. They were just trying to run a little toss pitch to Hewitt in the flat. Let me bring it back here and show you this. So he muffs this. He has to scoop it up from like the 43, 45. Now he's running back to the 50. He finds his buddy Drew Neer, completes it to him at the 27, and Neer takes it in for a touchdown on 4th and 4. So you want to talk about absolute madness. And then this, like 2 plays after that, Alex Jetter hooks up with Tyler Endress for a touchdown, and the Gladiators punch right back. But the Ramblers weren't done. This is Jamie Joseph going through the spin cycle twice for an 18-yard touchdown run. And now we've got another run by Braxton Lisinski. I believe this was about a 24-yard touchdown run. And the Gladiators did not let it stop there. Alex Jetter with a nice sack on Drew Neer in the backfield. And the Gladiator onslaught continued. But Boyne City, credit to them, kept fighting back. And this was Ben Stonick for a touchdown on a little pitch pass that he received from Owen Hewitt. Hewitt had 2 touchdown passes on the day. Here's a deep throw downfield, and this one was intercepted by Cooper Sellers right there at like the 33-yard line. And that was not the end of the scoring. This game ended at 55-35. So just points galore in this one as Cooper Sellers gets another touchdown there. I mean, the first matchup was 20-13. This one was so much different. And initially, it couldn't have started off any different than the previous game, with the touchdown run. And then here's another one, Ben Stonick reaching out for this one from the pass by Drew Neer. That was on 2nd and 8. They just said, hey, let's take a deep shot. And credit to Boyne City, they executed, but the effort just wasn't enough to get over the dominating offensive performance by the Gladiators this week.
Well, that'll do it for our playoff games from last week. We'll get into this week's playoff games towards the end of the show. Right now, we're going to transition into the world of NFL, and want to get your guys' initial reactions to the trade deadline. Any transactions you thought that were intriguing, or anything that didn't happen that was intriguing or that upset you? And Jared, I guess let's start with you.
Yeah, well, we're kind of talking, we'll talk a lot about the biggest winners. I do think one of the biggest losers in free agency, which they typically are the team that loses the most in free agency, and that would be my Cincinnati Bengals. You trade one of your, in my opinion, better linebackers to a hurt defense for a 7th-round pick. You have Trey Hendrickson on a contract. He's probably not going to be there next season, and you get nothing for him. So I could go on for days and days about what they could and should do, but overall, I'd say they're one of the biggest losers of the trade deadline. And I got to say, the Colts trading for Sauce Gardner really shocked me. I mean, I think the Colts have a good team, and they might make some upsets. But personally, I don't think Daniel Jones gives you a real shot at winning.
You don't think they're all in to win this year with that?
They sure are all in to win. I guess for me, I was just kind of surprised to see that big of a jump for them. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sauce Gardner is one of the premier corners in the league, and he gets a little undervalued because, well, he's on the dumpster bin, which is the Jets. So, you get a little undervalued there. But I don't know. I think the Colts I respect them for making the moves, but I don't know if that's going to be one that they're going to really love long term, especially because that Sauce contract in those last 2 years is about like, I want to say $36 million a year or something crazy. So we'll see how it works out. But that was just the biggest surprise for me on this trade deadline.
Charles, you got some things to add into that.
I think one of the teams that doesn't get talked about enough over this trade deadline period, is the New York Jets. I mean, they got a multitude of first-round picks. They traded defensive interior lineman Quinnen Williams, and they also traded Sauce Gardner, as Jared just alluded to. They got two first-round picks for Sauce Gardner and another first-round pick for Quinnen Williams. So Aaron Glenn and the Jets will definitely be using that draft capital on some of these really good quarterbacks coming out of the draft. Maybe they're looking at Indiana's quarterback Mendoza, thinking like, hey, this kid is 6'4", he's intelligent. They comp him right now to Justin Herbert kind of draft evaluation. And the Jets, with all that draft capital, can do a lot of different things. They're only paying Justin Fields for one more year, and then after that, they'll be moving on. They've still got some good weapons, including Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. So if you're a quarterback coming in, the cupboard is not bare at the New York Jets pantry in terms of offensive wide receivers and running backs and talent. And if you're Aaron Glenn, what are you going to do now? Because Glenn is in a very similar situation at New York that the Lions were when Glenn was just starting out as the defensive coordinator in Detroit. The Lions had just traded Matthew Stafford, got 2 first-round picks from the Rams. The Lions ended up turning those picks into Jahmyr Gibbs and I believe Jack Campbell. And, we see what the Lions were able to do with that. And then ultimately the Rams weren't that great that year as well. So the picks that the Lions got from the Rams were of pretty good value. So the Jets taking a little chance here with the picks that they got from the Colts in the future, primarily next year, because the Colts already have, I believe, 7 wins this season. So we'll see. I think the biggest winner of the trade deadline is actually the biggest seller of the trade deadline.
Well, I've got a few points to make before we move on. I will take the Patriots acquiring Jacoby Myers from the Raiders, jumping on the May train.
Jags. To the Jaguars.
Jaguars, my bad. Yeah, jumping on the May train there. We talked earlier about potential MVP candidates. So helping out a young core there. I'm actually upset that the Lions did not go after Hendrickson. I think I had mentioned that a week ago. I don't know if we were on air or not, but I mentioned about the Lions' interest in Hendrickson, and not enough waves apparently, as nothing gets done with that. And I know Hendrickson's your boy, so any comments on that?
Well, I guess my question would be, Eric, do you think that he is worth a second-round pick? Because that was the asking price. The Bengals were pretty much set on a second-round pick. Would you be willing to give one up? About 31.
I am willing to see anyone that's got the cojones to make any type of decision right now to go all in on something right now, because I think we need some more help. And we tried the Zadarius Smith thing last year, and look where that got us. So a chance on him. I had talked about wanting Max Crosby. So any type of someone to set the other edge for Hutch would have been a great acquisition for me. And then the last thing I'll throw in is Quinnen Williams going to the Cowboys. Obviously, with Parsons leaving, you need someone to shore up any type of that defense. And getting Williams over there, it should help in the least.
Well, you look at what the Cowboys did in their offseason. They traded Micah Parsons. They got Kenny Clark, when healthy, is a very good interior defensive lineman. Now you bring in Quinnen Williams, who's on a contract with term for 3 to 4 years. I forget if it's 4 or 3 years. So now you've got Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, 2 of the best interior defensive linemen. It's pretty clear what the Cowboys have in mind. They want to stop the run. They want to become a more physical defensive team, and that's what they have done. And if I'm Dallas fans, because they also traded for Logan Wilson as well, the linebacker from the Bengals. Logan Wilson, I believe 2 to 3 years ago, was a Pro Bowl linebacker. So, and you look at what Dallas has done. Yeah, they got rid of Micah Parsons, but they've really replaced him with a lot more pieces to the whole, giving themselves more depth and are becoming more of a physical team. Micah Parsons, great at rushing the passer, great at setting the edge, but he's not really going to go in there and snuff out the run. And that's what Dallas has started to set themselves up with the pieces inside like Williams and Clark and now Wilson to play linebacker to be able to stop the run. And it's pretty clear the strategy that the Cowboys are trying to implement here.
Well, so moving on from the pro game, we want to spend a small portion of time in college basketball. Let's move on as we got the opening week of college basketball. You know, my sport, coaching it for 25 years. But I got a question to pose to you, and we're going to do two things here. Number one, I want to know if college basketball is going the way of college football. We had a segment on a Next Level show earlier in the season talking about the state of college football with the transfer portal and NIL and whatnot. So, you know, with college basketball starting up, is basketball starting to head down that dangerous path? Has it already? And is there any type of solution or path that they could take? Jared, I guess we'll start with you.
Well, you know, I saw this on our kind of pre-game, you know, pre-week thing, and I was thinking to myself, well, you know, what really does need to change with college basketball? And nothing really came to mind instantly, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but I really think if we're going to have a conversation about basketball and which sport, you know, needs to change, I actually would look more into the NBA about changes that they need to make just personally out of all, you know, friends and people I know around my age, you know, a little post-college. No one's really that interested in the NBA anymore. It's all college basketball. That's really, they live and die with their schools. And I know some of it is, you know, recency bias, recently graduating from some of these universities and reminiscing on your time there. But I find it really that people love college basketball in my age group, and it's really the NBA that is the one that's kind of falling behind in the sort of viewership and any interest. So a little bit of a different spiel there.
Well, the hard part for me on that is, and I'm not going to get into the NIL thing. I did a whole 15-minute spiel on that. Check out the Next Level Broadcasting show on week whatever, and I'll talk about how to save college football through NIL. But let's get through the rest of that. You know, increased player mobility, I think, is an issue, especially with this transfer portal. I was talking to Charles on the phone the other day about Louisville signing a player from the G League. I mean, where are we going? I haven't gone to college yet. I've got eligibility. Can I go to Nuckmuck and try to play?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, back to reality. You know, team rebuilding strategies. You know, you got players jumping from ship to ship. You know, they get butt hurt because somebody said something or coach was mean to them. So I'm going to go somewhere where they're going to pamper me. So now you don't have rosters that have stability, and then you've got fans in the stands that don't get to see their player, or they've got to see how much money they have to spend on Amazon to buy college shirts because they're switching teams every other year. You know, and you know, long gone are the days back when Tom Izzo could have every 4-year player reach at least one Final Four. How about we have college players make it through 4 years? So, you know, I think there needs to be some stability as far as the transfer portal. You know, NIL is its own animal. I am more worried about the transfer part and team stability, cohesiveness, continuity, and keeping groups together to try to build some type of tradition and a legacy. But that seems to have gone out the window from my standpoint because it's too easy to leave.
So I kind of have a antithesis of that statement, Eric, because I think as a product, as a standpoint, as watching from a fan, college basketball has gotten a lot better because most teams, the rotation is going to be set at 7, 8. Some coaches might play 9 guys. Right now in college basketball, or how it had been previously set up, you had talented freshman players who at some schools and universities Michigan State, wouldn't play or would get yanked and sat on the bench. I'm talking about you, Jaren Jackson Jr., when you didn't make a couple blockouts against Syracuse and Izzo sat him on the bench. Kid was the 4th overall pick in the draft, and he sat the bench in the second half of the game. You know what?
He still shows up to Hell Week.
He still shows up to Hell Week, but I'm saying if a kid like that has that kind of talent and the coach is jerking you around, you're gone. And that's exactly what it should be because I want to see the most talented kids play because, let's be real, it's not the NBA. They don't have as much talent, but the disbursement of talent is what the NIL is doing for college basketball. And because college basketball features 5 players during the game for one team as opposed to football with 11, the disbursement of talent in college basketball is much, much more vivid. you can see the disbursement of talented players. Hey, if I'm going to be the 8th dude in the rotation and only play 12 minutes a game, I'm out. I'm Trey Holloman. I'm going to come off the bench. I'm out to NC State. You know, they're going to give me $750K. I'm going to NC State. And I can't fault the kids, really, because they're going to get more playing time. They're going to cash a check. When they get there, they're going to treat them and pamper them. And then ultimately, they still might have an opportunity to go play in the NBA. And if they don't get a chance to play in the NBA, like Hunter Dickinson, then you got to have an opportunity to, like you say, Eric, get from the cow that's giving milk. And I hate to put words in your mouth, but you've already used them before. So as the 21-year-old, how would you advise your son, daughter, or a previous player that you've coached to go out there and navigate the current ecosystem of college basketball? And for me, the viewer, I think it's made it a lot more interesting because you don't have teams that can just stockpile talent like Kentucky used to do. I mean, Michigan State and the other programs like Duke or the traditional powerhouses and blue bloods would have players on the roster that were just waiting their turn. Now you don't have to wait your turn if you're a good player. Just go to a different school. I mean, heck, we saw the #1 recruit in the country go to BYU this year, and spoiler alert, one of our people on our panel tonight has BYU as a Final Four team. So when you really look at the overall landscape of college basketball, I think the NIL has actually helped it.
Jared, go ahead.
Yeah, and that just you bringing up that point, Charles, actually kind of reminded me of something. If you just look back college basketball, just a couple years ago, you had people like the Ball, like LaMelo Ball, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, not Ace Bailey, Scoot Henderson, deciding to go to the G League or overseas instead of playing college basketball.
Both Thompson brothers,
because there was no NIL. So the NIL is actually only boosting people actually saying, you know what, I'm going to go play at Duke because I can still go get a bag versus, I can go play at Duke, make no money, or I can go play overseas, play most likely, more professional or a seasoned competition and get paid. Well, there used to be a no-brainer, and now you're finally seeing guys starting to decide to keep it, win college and kind of go back to the quote-unquote good old days, and I kind of like it. It's nice to see these young guys playing in college versus watching a game at 3 in the morning because they're playing in the Aussie League.
And I will add one advocate here because I do want to advocate for college basketball to get rid of the ability for a professional player, if they come from Europe, they're playing in a professional league, to then be eligible to play in college basketball. Like Jared, you highlighted with the case of Louisville and some of the other programs out there signing professional players that were foreign players that were playing professionally. It'd be like if Luka Doncic wanted to go to Duke after playing since age 13 professionally in Europe. I don't think that's fair and equitable. However, once that gets sorted out, I'm totally fine with how college basketball has started to process things, and I think college basketball has a much, much better format and a lot better guidelines in place than college football does, just because of the demand and the supply. Ultimately, it's an economic scale, and there's a lot less supply of these players, but the demand is also a lot less as well. College football, you have to fill a roster. College basketball, hey, like, if you're not good, then nobody wants you. Whereas in college football, like, you can make one good play and somebody's going to want you because they've got 30 players leaving because they just brought in a new head coach. You don't have that type of demand in college basketball because college coaches aren't going to come into a college team and just gut the roster like you saw Deion Sanders do in Colorado. I mean, yeah, Dusty May pushed a lot of people out the door at Michigan, and rightfully so, because that program was getting stepped on all throughout the Big Ten because, John Beilein gave him a very well-run program. And then when Dusty May came in, it had really deteriorated those last couple of years. And now Dusty May pushed everybody out, got in his transfers. He got Yaxel Landenberg, who from UAB might be the best transfer this coming year. And Michigan just blew a team out. So I think right now college basketball, it's going to be very, very entertaining. And that's going to lead us into our next subject. And Eric, we'll bring it to you first, but we want to talk about the Final Four teams. Or if you want to have a rebuttal, go ahead.
It's Gen X versus you two young Padawans here. I'll just say, is it about win now or development? Or do we go to college to enhance our education, or do we go to college to get a bag?
I don't think that you can qualify the college basketball players as going to college to get an education. I think right now you have to look at it as this is going to college to play effectively semi-pro basketball.
Basically, I mean, with your NIL. But then if you don't have your education and you don't make it overseas, where are you?
Let's be real about one thing here.
Wheeling those coats
when
around.
you are playing at a high Division I school or even a mid-major in basketball or football, you're not treated as a student. You're treated as an employee.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 5 a.m. workouts. It's a grind, and it is one heck of a schedule. Having seen it myself when I was at Michigan State with some of the student athletes going through and being involved in the women's basketball program back before NIL. I mean, those student athletes and those ladies were just absolutely shot by the end of the day. And then they had to get up the next day and go play Wisconsin. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to go through that schedule. And I think we're selling our students short, both that are just going to school for academics and our student athletes that are also enrolled as student athletes, because it's different if you're a football player or a basketball player, the lifestyle that you live as a student athlete as opposed to someone on the rowing team or gymnastics team. It's totally different.
Night and day.
Well, earn is a 4-letter word, and it seems like earn has several definitions now, and you just got to find out which ones are going to suit you the best. But you were wondering about my Final Four. Is that what we were getting into?
Yeah, let's get into Final Four predictions.
So my Final Four, which will be funny as we were talking about this in NIL and whatnot.
If you go one by one, yeah.
You want to go number 1 and number 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1 overall will be the Purdue Boilermakers. Elite and experienced Braden Smith are going to come back and have another tremendous year with an efficient pick-and-roll offense and with a continuity improvement system. So I have Purdue, although I don't want to pick them. I am a realist, and they're number 1. Number 2 for me, the Houston Cougars. The great thing about them is potential home court to play for, because they could have Sweet 16 and I think Elite 8 in their home. Not necessarily home gym, but they would be basically hosting those two rounds.
I think it's the Toyota Center there in Houston where they're playing.
That's the Rockets.
I think Rice is the actual college that's the name on there, but obviously, I mean, it's basically a home game for them. And again, their trademark elite defense and the way they play ball. I'm just a fan of their.
They kind of play like old school Michigan State used to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, up and down the floor, intense defense. The back in the days of Andre Hudson.
Yeah.
You know that. Number 3 for me, being a Carolina fan, I have to go with the Duke Blue Devils. John Shires gathered another nice, historic, talented class to go along with the first Boozer boy, who has done nothing but win at all levels so far. So Duke seems to be reloading for another potential Final Four run. And last but not least for me, I'm going to give it to the Kentucky Wildcats. And bringing in a new coach, although he really used the transfer portal and good recruiting to put together a nice, versatile group of kids that average about between 6'8", 6'10", or so. Very versatile, multi-dimensional, multi-positional, and they're going to give people more fits than people think.
So, Eric, your Final Four teams: number 1, Purdue; number 2, Houston; 3, Duke; 4, Kentucky. And
yes, sir.
We'll slide over to Jared now. Jared, I know you've got one similar pick, but we kind of teased it earlier. Do you think that one of those picks could be coming from the Mountain West?
Oh, it sure could, Charles. I really like what BYU has been doing. I think last year they looked great. I mean, they had some guys go high in the draft. They had that about 6'9" point guard from Eastern Europe, Edgar. Can't think of his last name, but
or pronounce it. Good luck pronouncing it too.
But I'm pretty sure most of us know who we're talking about. And he was balling, and they've BYU has been one of those very underrated basketball programs over the last couple of years. And well, I think you're seeing that people are starting to pick up on that because they got AJ DiBastia, I think is how you pronounce his last name, and Well, we've only seen one game so far, but he's pretty much been as promised. 21 points in his first game, along with 6 rebounds, 3 assists. I think the BYU Cougars are on set to be a very dominating team this year, and AJ will likely be a top draft pick come the NBA draft. But another team I got on there is also the Duke Blue Devils. You kind of hit the nail on the head with what I was going to say about them. It's Duke. They have another top class. They've got a great coach who was under Coach K's wings for years and years. So, until Duke really stops doing what they've done for the past, since at least I've been alive, then it's hard to not say that they have a top chance in the Final Four. Last, I got actually same as Eric's sweatshirt. I got UConn. I think Dan Hurley and those boys. They had a disappointing season last year for them. And solo ball, I've heard him speak a lot about how motivated this squad really is. And love him or hate him, Dan Hurley, those guys love him and they play hard for him. Personally, I'm a bit of a fan of him. I like the way that UConn's been going, and I think that this is their year to bounce back. And speaking of bounce back, even though they're ranked at 22 to start the year, I think the Spartans are going to make a little bit of a shocker in this tournament this year. It might not have the amount of quote-unquote talent that you had last year, but I think those are the teams that everyone has to play that much harder to elevate, because that it has to be a team effort, not just, we hope Jace Richardson has 30 points or we hope this guy goes off. It's a team. I think Izzo's going to right the ship. They've gotten better the last 2 years, and this is the year they have a real shot.
Charles not pay you yet or something?
Sometimes you just got to, Michigan and Dusty Mays, they might be good and not, but preseason rankings don't mean anything to me. I believe Izzo's going to finally right the ship.
Charles, take us home.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a compilation of both of your picks. So if you're looking at it from the start to the finish for me, the first team that I think will be the number 1 overall seed, and this is going out on a limb because they do have a pretty hard conference, and that is the Arizona Wildcats. I think Arizona, after that win they got the other night, and that showed me a lot. Arizona, if you didn't know, opened the season up already playing a top 10 team, dismantling them, number 4 ranked Florida, and just took them to school. And so I got Arizona coming in as my number 1 overall ranked team. And then I also do think that Purdue will make it out of the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten this year, basketball-wise, is a gauntlet. But Purdue, they only have to play Michigan State once. I believe they play Michigan twice. And the schools out west, primarily USC, Washington, and Oregon, I don't think really add that much to the conference. I do think UCLA will be pretty tough this year, but for those West Coast trips that these Midwest Big Ten teams are now getting accustomed to going on, I think they're going to sleep well at night when they're in their hotel rooms when they know that they're playing USC or Washington the next day. So I'm going to put Purdue in there. After that, I got to go with the Houston Cougars. I think Houston is a very well-rounded team this year, and I think that the way that they can guard and the stretch that they're on right now, being able to really roll in the recruits. Houston is a school that isn't being truly impacted by having one-and-dones. And I think what Houston has done through their NIL and through Calvin Sampson and the way they wanted to coach is they can now afford to keep these players through the NIL that might be a second-round pick, that might make $1.1 million with their signing bonus in the NBA and then be out of the NBA playing in Europe for 2 years. Now the Cougars can just keep these guys and say, hey, we want you to stay for 4 years. Here's $750,000, and we'll keep you, and we're going to go to the Final Four yet again. And that's the strategy that Houston has been able to implement, and I think it's working very well for them. Lastly, I got to go with Duke. So, Eric, you and I have very similar Final Four picks. I just think that Arizona is a better team than Kentucky. I think Arizona will have more challenges. Already indicative by playing Florida in the non-conference, knocking off the defending reigning national champions. And for the Arizona Wildcats, Purdue Boilermakers, Duke Blue Devils, and the Houston Cougars, those are my Final Four teams. 2 of those teams made the Final Four last year. You can make the argument that Purdue should have made the Final Four last year. It was a crazy game between Houston and Purdue last year that kept Purdue out of the Final Four. So I'm somebody who likes to know what I'm buying into, know the product that I'm buying. And with Purdue and Houston and Duke, you kind of know what you're going to get. I feel like for Arizona, does Tommy Lloyd have the ability to coach these guys up and get them to the true pinnacle of what I think a lot of U of A fans think that they can get to on a year-to-year basis, and hasn't really been able to get there so far. So I think this is a big litmus test for him.
Well, that'll do it for that segment. Right now, we're going to move on to our last part of the day. Is let's preview the games we've got going on tomorrow. First, Jared, let's go ahead and talk about the one we're going to be at tomorrow. East Jordan making the trip down to Glen Lake to take on the Lakers, and again a rematch that you talked about earlier on in the show. And so, give me a couple takeaways of what you look forward to in this game.
Well, when they played earlier in this season, Max Beal just came off of a concussion, and if Trace Weinkoop was playing, he was not playing at 100%. Well, the difference is going to be Trace Weinkoop not only is going to be healthy, but is playing the best football he's played all season, going up into the playoffs. Offense is starting to click for East Jordan. Defense had 4 turnovers, I think 4 forced fumbles. Only 3 of them were recovered. Defense is hot. Offense is hot. They just really got to stop a hot Lakers team. I mean, I don't know what that final was, but last time I checked, it was 35-0 in the fourth quarter against Mansalona. And, what the thing is, the Lakers can control the ball and grind out a game. And the thing is, East Jordan could not do that in the previous matchup. They could score in big plays, but they're going to have to score in big plays almost every drive or try and chew up the clock because that Lakers squad is legit.
Well, East Jordan's defense has really been playing well lately, and you're wondering about big plays. You got big play Brady Wilson. You can hit a deep one, with him from William Webb at any point in the game. But again, their running game has really done well too, as the highlights alluded to with a great offensive line. And again, East Jordan, like I said, playing at all 3 phases pretty well. If they can go down there doing that, maybe they've got a nice shot to pull this one off. Right now we're going to move on. Charles, I don't know if you want to give any insight to Gaylord St. Mary's and Onekama before St. Francis and Kingsley.
Yeah, so as you can see right there on the screen, we'll just bring it in full screen mode. And you see a lot of the matchups. St. Francis and Kingsley, they met a couple weeks ago. And let me tell you what, this one was an absolute doozy. But before we get into that, we'll talk about Gaylord St. Mary at Onekama, because this game should be another kind of just absolute slugfest of a high-scoring affair.
What's the over-under?
I'm setting the over-under. The over-under for this game has probably got to be like 85. I mean,
Dang.
Big 12 kind of shootout.
Yeah, right.
In my opinion, one of the things that you'll have to take a look at
Tom Osborne,
and
70
keep
points.
an eye on. Gaylord St. Mary, they beat Mayo 84-42 last week, and you saw the highlights. I mean, the running game was pretty much unstoppable for Gaylord St. Mary. And it's Nathan O'Connell. He's kind of the emotional leader, and it's Logan Grenier who gives them that big-time thumper. And when they can establish Logan Grenier, he's kind of the heartbeat of that Snowbird offense. When he's rumbling and getting 6, 7, maybe 12, popping one for 20 yards every other carry, it really allows St. Mary to open up their playbook and allow O'Connell to get out on the perimeter, start to hit some of those rollouts, and then get to some of their athletes in space, whether it's Mertz or Skoronski or Switalski, being able to get them some open looks. For Onekama, I mean, the Portagers, they're undefeated, and they've been steamrolling people. They beat Hillman last week, and Hillman is no slouch, and I believe that game was not that close. So for what Onekama wants to do, it really comes down to being very, very disciplined. The Bradford brothers are extraordinary runners of the football, and for Onekama, listen, if they can keep the penalties down and take care of the football, St. Mary is very good at kind of getting you down and then forcing you to play outside of your comfort zone and forcing you to play outside of your rhythm, play from a negative game script, and then getting a turnover. And then that's when the avalanche starts for the Gaylord St. Mary Snowbirds. So look for that game to be largely determined by which team takes care of the football better and is able to weather the storm, or whether the first team's counterpunch. As some of the time when you're playing 8-man football and you haven't played a lot of close games, I think Gaylord St. Mary has now, because of the Breckenridge, because of the Inland Lakes game, because of the Central Lake game, they've played more close games than Onekama has. And those punches and the counter punches that St. Mary has and hasn't had in those close games, primarily in the Inland Lakes game, when Inland Lakes scored 34 points in the third quarter. When Breckenridge took the lead at the end, St. Mary was driving, then fumbled. Breckenridge scooped and scored it. They ended up losing that game by 10. I think St. Mary has kind of gone through the gauntlet of understanding the emotional roller coaster of a high-leverage football game more so than Onekama. Onekama will have the home field advantage, though, so you never know there from that standpoint, and it is about a 2-hour bus ride from Gaylord over to Onekama. So I think we're going to have some really good football games. St. Francis versus Kingsley. I mean, what more can I say about that one? Because looking at that, and I mean, it was 21-20 the first time these two teams played. The Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators had a 21-6 lead. Kingsley came storming back with under 3 minutes left to go. They scored 14 points, went for 2 due to an encroachment penalty that the Gladiators gave them half the distance to the goal. They went to their stud in Colton Goethals, and he got stonewalled by the left side of that St. Francis defensive line, and St. Francis would go on to win the game. That one was an instant thriller, a classic. And if we get another game like that tomorrow night, I'll be here talking about it next week. Let me just say that.
To join us down here and spend some time with us tonight. A quick reminder, make sure you are going to the NFHS site to watch your game of choice. It's the NFHS site. It is Next Level Broadcasting, but it is brought to you through the NFHS network, so make sure you are subscribing and watching through there. So for Charles Strail, Jared Stamen, I am Eric Huffman. Thank you so much for joining us on the Next Level show. We will see you at the games tomorrow night. Have a great one.